Good morning. Hello, everyone. It is a special pleasure to be here today in this forum. I'm sure this applies to my colleagues, the judges from the European Courts of Human Rights who come from Southeast European countries. This is one of the most welcomed, events of the year, and we organize this regularly, and we are always grateful not only to the organizers but also for the persistence of air center and civil rights persistence in continuously organizing such meetings, even though sometimes it has to be done in extraordinary situations. It's quite challenging. This is really an opportunity, a very good opportunity to meet, with other colleagues from courts in the region. It's a good opportunity to talk, to have a dialogue. And this is certainly the primary and the irreplaceable form of dialogue between the European Courts of Human Rights and regional courts. And this is certainly this exchange is through our mutual jurisprudence. It's inevitable. We talk to each other, we communicate, we share our views, and this is an ongoing and irreplaceable process. At the same time, I also think that events of such nature play an extremely important role in giving us the opportunity to talk to each other directly around a table like this, and even during coffee breaks. This is indeed this is an added value of these events. So once again, thank you to the organizers and to supporters of this conference. Well, this is supposed to be a short speech, so I will try to summarize it a little bit, and we will then continue now to talk in more details in further sessions. Regarding the topic of this forum, I would like to say that as a general consideration, over the 3 last years, with the pandemic, we have had a kind of illustration of the fact that emergencies, whatever, the cause of such emergencies is, be it natural disaster or epidemiological disaster, or, human even caused disaster, threaten our lives. They threaten the life and health of people, but they also represent a kind of a stress test. They test how strong and consolidated democratic institutions are in certain countries. They show us how strong these institutions are, how the rule of law system, responds, how strong such systems are to preserve the values even in difficult times. And I believe we were all able to see this in the region and even in the entire European continent. Well, we all remember the times of fear or public hesitation, public intimidation, which is quite understandable, but they are certainly not good in terms of ensuring or protecting fundamental human rights and democratic standards. I would probably, divide the topics we will discuss in three main areas. First of all, it is this superstructure. Well, I'm talking from the perspective of the rule of law. So this superstructure, in times of emergencies, and that includes, derogations from the European Convention or other international instruments. The domestic mechanisms for delegation of new authorities for the executive, the role that the legislative plays or fails to play, as well as the role to be played by the judiciary to avoid uh, excess of power. This is the time when the executive takes extraordinary, unusual prerogatives, and in my opinion, it is extremely important to have in place to still have in place checks and balances. This is one of the largest themes these the themes that we start to see even in the case law of the European Court of Human Rights. So one of the things that the court is going to review in a first case in the Grand Chamber, this is a Swiss case, Communauté Genevois, which is about the right to rally during the first period of the pandemic. This is, let's say, a first set, of some aspects. A second category is about the functioning of the judiciary. Well, we are all witnesses of the fact that, especially during the most difficult part of the pandemic, the executive went through some kind of paralysis. The courts were closed down, access to courts became very difficult. The normal functioning of the judiciary, faced extraordinary challenges. Well, this might not be fatal, for certain cases, but it certainly is when it comes to detention, for instance, what we in Albania call the security measures as part of the criminal proceedings. So such cases are certainly urgent, and they require, decisions to be taken as soon as possible. Or I could mention the case, the right to family, children's custody, and so on. So these were some of the first challenges that courts in Europe faced in the entire European continent, not only in our region. There were even cases of, technology being used in quite a creative way. Video links were used, to give the right to the defendants or their lawyers, to be part of hearing sessions, especially in cases of detention measures to be taken. So we just need to see what the lessons to be learned are for the future. A third and final category I'd like to also mention, and which goes beyond the immediate functioning of courts, but which is not less fundamental, and this is guaranteeing other fundamental rights, and the role played by the judiciary in this aspect, especially when the life and health of humanity is at risk. I mean, the life and health of any communities in a certain country when they are at risk. So political rights or other rights, of course, become secondary, or they tend to be treated, let's say, as less fundamental. However, rights are always fundamental. The rights can never be less fundamental. So I would say that well, during the day, we will talk in more details. I'm not going to mention them all now. The head of the Constitutional Court of Albania gave us a case from the Albanian case law. She spoke about a case, a decision taken by the Constitutional Court before an electoral period, the right to rallies, which were suspended by the Minister of Health in this case for several months. But we will have, as you will see during the forum, we will see similar cases from Bosnia, the Constitutional Court of Slovenia, Kosovo Constitutional Court, the French Constitutional Court, and so on. So these are some positive indications that show that the judiciary was actually engaged, and the judiciary did play an important role in constantly ensuring the fundamental rights, even during a very challenging period, especially for an unprecedented, situation, even for Europe. I'm sure that we will elaborate these topics even in more details during the sessions. I wish us all successful discussions. I believe at the end of these 2 days, we will be able to have a kind of a resume of what we have learned from this pandemic, and, things that can be useful to improve our response to future emergencies. Thank you.